Hello everybody, it's Lars here from Unicorn Reviews. Today what we're going to do is we're going to look at how far Project Cars has come. Now I'm not going to compare it to other games, I'm not going to compare it to previous versions of this game. We shot all the footage and all the testing for this preview video was done on build 686, which is not even alpha, so this is all pre-alpha footage. Please keep all of that in mind when you make your own, what ideas on the video. For example, this car is an alpha stage, so when you go over stuff, you get really weird artifacts. So yeah, just think of all of that. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna do just driving with AI, showing you the detailing the cars, detailing the tracks. Talking mostly about physics, because in my opinion that's what racing games are about. It's all about the physics. Graphics, I don't really care about them. Actually I kind of do care about them, that's why I play Project Cars, because it looks amazing. But more about that later. So my system, a lot of people always ask about the system and graphics settings. Those were some of the artifacts I told you about. So it's an i5 IV clocked at 4.8 gigahertz. And we're running an AMD R9 at 1.1 gigahertz, I think. So that's pretty much the only important things you need to know about my computer configuration. Don't worry, I'm not gonna show you full stuff all the time. I did put quite a lot of editing in for this video. So yeah, I just want to show you guys the rest of the lab, because Spa and the Pagani Zonda Cinque Roadster, brilliant car. It's one of my favorites. It was just released into the game, and I mean I really like the way it handles, other than the gearbox being too short. And with that car you can't adjust the gearbox in real life, so you cannot really adjust it in this game either. So it's realistic, but I would like a shorter gearbox in that car. But anyway, it's still a really fast thing. It's probably because I'm already shifting quite a lot, not like Aero Atom much, but this is already quite a lot of shifting. So, yeah, let's move on to the menus in about 8 seconds. Right then, lab done. This is pretty much when you log in. I just pressed login. Cool new user interface. I don't know if they're gonna keep it. Everything with pre-alpha stuff is subject to change, so they might completely switch everything around. Anyway, here is career creation at the moment. So you just give yourself a first name, a surname, a preferred nickname, nationality, a car number. Press next. You can then set a bunch of shit, like massive amount of settings. Don't worry guys, you can just go with quick settings everywhere in the game. Especially when it's going to be released, there's going to be an awful lot of choice, but you can also keep it very simple for those who are just casuals. Yeah, filthy casuals. Anyway, that was pretty much what career looks like. You can also do seasons, so at the moment only 2, because let's face it, it's pre-alpha. If they got 1 to work, then that's great. That means they can add as many as they want. Again, when you do a quick race, bunch of settings, a bunch of tracks already. Not all of them have been licensed yet. Some may not ever be licensed. So it's possible that what you see in this video will not be in the finished game. At least not when it's officially launched. Maybe as DLC, who knows. For example, the car we just saw there has only been licensed 2 days ago. The Radical SR3 RS, I think. There's a multiplayer section. It's not complete yet. Kind of the reason why I don't play a lot anymore, because the multiplayer at the moment, is quite buggy. But yeah, there's also leaderboards, time trial events. Everything you could possibly wish for in a racing game is there. You also have a profile where you can set stuff, but who cares about that? Let's just go racing, right? So yeah, oh yeah, I should have talked about that, because you can set up your car completely asymmetrically as well if you want to. Everything can be set up if the car in real life supports setting stuff up. And also, before we go racing, visuals. As you can see, these are the settings we used. So that's pretty much the game maxed out, other than for AA, because my card, as you'll see in this video, sometimes really struggles. 400 euro graphics card. So if you're playing this game on PC, you can play it on really cheap cards, but if you want maximum detail, then you're gonna have to be prepared to spend a bit. But yeah, let's face it, if you spend 600 euros on a triple screen setup and another 1,000 on a wheel, then what's a 500 euro graphics card anyway? So for this first test, we're gonna drive the RUF CTR3, also freshly licensed into this game. Let's choose some opponents here. So I don't know, let's go with 24 cars on track, 22 cars on track. Yeah. You can set what type of opponents you want. So if you want identical ones or the same class, or just random cars. So you're driving your Renault Megane among Formula 1 cars from the past, whatever. If you want to do it, you can do it. This is a loading screen. I'm only going to show that once so you get some record times and everything. There's a race monitor before you start, where you can see your own car. There you can toggle AI on and off in your own car. You can get a bunch of data using telemetry or timings or the map to see where the car is. Again, I'm going to tell it everything that looks out of place, like the text here, for example. That's all because it's not released yet. Okay, so again, pit strategy and everything. So what I'm going to do, as you'll see in a few seconds with some fancy editing, I'm going to do the game full screen, and then in the bottom right corner I'm going to pop up me, so you can see input latencies, because a lot of people think that's very important. I have to say I really like low input latency, and in this game you really do have that, so it does really work. And if it looks a bit off to you, then it's probably because I kind of screwed up then when I had to put the two videos at the same time with two devices shooting at different frame rates. But whatever, let's drive a RUF CTR3. And I have to say, this car as well, alpha status, really cool physics. You can feel it that it's a mid-engined car because it's based on a rear-engined Porsche, but then they make it a bit longer. But a brilliant, absolutely brilliant car to drive already. So with all the updates that they're going to do to this game, it can only be amazing. A little bit about the user interface at the moment. You can just toggle the heads-up display through various modes. You can also select timing screens, but if that's not enough customizability for you, you can just go to options and help, and then just press edit HUD layout. So you can just click and drag. Probably on consoles you're going to use A or X and drag, whatever. Yeah, don't play on consoles, they're stupid. But it is going to be released on SteamOS, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Maybe even on the older consoles eventually, because they planned on doing that, but then they just thought, well, no one's playing on that anymore. Let's just drop everything and move to next gen. You should actually see me doing these quotation marks with my fingers while I'm talking to you. But yeah, anyway, more awesome RUF racing. Yeah, tires in this game. Now, you can do the best physics you can possibly imagine in a game, with chassis movement and aerodynamics, suspension calculations. But the hardest part to code, because you can code like an entire car in a week really easily on your own. Actually, a week is a bit too much time. But to get a proper tire model, that is probably the hardest thing in racing sims. Now, Project Cars, the tire model isn't finished yet. Assetto Corsa is also not finished yet. So, I already said I wasn't going to compare. But I really like the way Project Cars feels. How the car feels on cold tires, how it feels on hot tires, overheated tires. It really feels good to me. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I did never ever drive a rough car, and I've never driven on this track, but from what I have done, I can imagine that it would feel somewhat like what the game makes it feel like to me. Slightly better than previous games I've done videos on, which aren't a lot. Next car game, for example, was one. Never done a demolition derby though. Anyway, some more maybe on, you know, slightly mad studios. A lot of people may know them from EA games. They did, what did they? They probably did shit 1 and 2, because, you know, that's kind of what happens when you work for EA. Everything you do turns into shit. But the guys really, really like cars. You can see that on the forums if you're allowed on there. They're all very, very much car guys and car girls, and they just wanted to make the best game ever, but they didn't really have a budget. So this is all crowdfunded. Sadly, you can no longer buy yourself into it. But yeah, that's just your own fault, isn't it? Alright guys, right now we're out of our lovely RUF, RUF, whatever you pronounce it like, and we're now into a Caterham murder machine, because it will kill you, it really will. Now this car has entered beta state, which pretty much means we could release it, but the game's not released yet, so we're not releasing it. That's pretty much what beta 2 status is like, you know, it's almost finished. So as you can see, there's beautiful animations in the wind deflector, the mirrors moving, the camber of the wheel changing according to suspension load, all of those beautiful physics details which not a lot of games have, and I'm afraid like the console versions will not really have this, because it just is so heavy on your CPU really, and your graphics cards as well, and let's face it, consoles aren't very powerful. So hopefully they can all keep, you know, the newer gen consoles, they are pretty good, let's face it. But they're nowhere near the performance this computer is like. But we're not going to start a console war, because I'm going to keep that for another video. I should really start a war on something. I declare war on something. Anyway, I'm not the Queen of Britain. So, what is this car like? It's a front engine rear-wheel drive car, so you do expect it to oversteer, but you also expect it to understeer on turn in, unless you lift off, and then it should oversteer, and it just does that brilliantly. It just feels like the real thing. I haven't driven the R500 yet, but it just feels like a Caterham feels. Point. Brilliant. So, we had front-engine car, mid-engine car. So how about a front-engine car with four-wheel drive? Because you know, it's the only four-wheel drive car in this game at the moment. So they probably haven't optimized models on suspension and tires and differentials and everything for that. But I have to say, other than the clutch being really annoying and just dropping to almost no RPM, I have to say it does feel pretty good. I haven't ever driven an Evo 10, but it just feels good. It feels better than any other game I've ever driven an Evo 10 in, which, to be honest, was kind of mostly Forza Motorsport, which isn't really a simulator, is it? This time we're again using the Brno track, which I just love this track. People go on and on about Nürburgring and Spa. I prefer Brno, and that's coming from a Belgian, so yeah, brilliant track. So we just had some four-wheel drive rally-ish car madness going on. So something completely different is a single-seater, lightweight car with not a lot of power, with some aerodynamic downforce. That's like the complete opposite. right? So how is it? Well, I really like it. That's probably the reason why I started a championship with the Formula Golf with the little Suzuki engine in there, because it's only a 1-liter engine. But it just sounds amazing. I don't really know. Well, actually I do know, because I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to make it sound really, really good to you, because it does actually sound really, really good in the game. Also something, because this was totally on purpose, guys. Actually, no, it's a bit buggy at the moment with the AI. But crashes, there is mechanical damage. You can have mechanical failures. Again, to add to the realism, because yeah, failures do happen in racing. But there is cosmetic damage as well, or visual damage, as Project Cars calls it. It's pretty good. It's not like Grit. Grit was absolutely brilliant at the time with the damage model. Next car game also has a really cool damage model. So it's not soft modeled, but the panels can actually deform quite a lot. And just completely fall off or go flying off after a while, or they start, you know, flapping, all that sort of stuff. I have to say, again, with the Formula Golf car, it just feels very, very cool. And everything is about feel with racing sims, as I said earlier. It should all be about how it feels to you. It's not all about the sound, all about the graphics. It's just how it feels to you when you use it with a proper wheel. Because, yeah, if you're going to use this game with a keyboard, then, you know, there are some fun leaks where people actually do hot lapping with a keyboard, but it's not what you should do. So, yeah, let's move on. So, we just went on a racetrack with race cars, so how about we take track day cars to the public roads? And what better public road than, well, actually I do know a few that are better, but one of the really, really cool roads in the world apparently are the mountain roads in California, like the mountain highways or hill highways. Now, there is still some AI crashing going on here, but this is just me with the Mugen June's Aerial Atom. Again, really, really cool. It's incredibly hard to drive because I didn't use any driving assists in this video, so it's really hard to drive stuff, especially this little thing. And you have to shift an awful lot as well, because it has just the most retardedly short gearbox ever. I don't think I've ever driven anything with a shorter gearbox. But it does. It's really fun, especially on a racetrack. This is just, you know, cruising through the mountains at ridiculous speeds, trying not to go off too much. But it's very, very much fun. Again, completely different. Instead of twisty roads, right now we are at Monza, one of the most untwisty roads. With McLaren, what's it called again? MP4-12C something. And the reason is that I wanted to show you, the reason is that I wanted to show you like the active Aero. Not a lot of games have it. It doesn't really matter, but it's just a cool feature when cars actually have animations to them, and it takes an awful lot of time to actually make something like that possible. But it just adds to the immersion, and I don't know who it was that said it, but everything is about immersion when you're making a video game and playing a video game. The AI is slightly better because I decided to mess around a little bit with the AI, because there's a quadrillion like sliders, and what I did is I just set risk taking and aggression, and I just lowered it like to 15%, and then the AI is actually quite good already. When you max it out, they're just like 10-year-olds in a random public lobby, really. So, another thing about Project Cars that's brilliant is their weather system. Because, well, there was something like only 5% of people ever using cockpit view. Now, if there's something people really hate in gaming, it's driving in the wet. For some reason, everybody wants nighttime racing and changeable weather, but no one ever uses it. So as a developer, it's an easy choice to just not have cockpit view, not have interchangeable weather or time. What the guys at Slightly Mad Studios decided to do was simulate the day and night time of any day in the last years. So you just select a date, you can actually set the date. So if you want to drive with sun up and down times from, let's say, the 6th of August or the 30th of February, which doesn't exist, so it probably isn't in there unless there's a little bug going on. But you can actually have like cool real life sun up and down times, sunset and dawn. I don't know, my English isn't that great. So that's pretty cool. Sadly, it would be even cooler if they had like a database of what weather there was at that date, and they wouldn't have to put it in the game. They could just link it to a weather service and then adjust the game to it. Sadly, that's not there. Maybe it's not there yet, who knows. The game is far from finished. It's still well, it's going to be released in fall 2014, I think, so that's half a year. Also, fall should be called autumn, not fall, because what if you're somewhere where leaves don't fall off trees? But yeah, let's not go into why words are words and why they are like they are. This car is probably, I should have probably done another one because this car hasn't really got a windshield yet, so it looks a bit overly reflective, this wet road. But it does feel pretty good though. So yeah, that's all great. And you also have different tires in the setup, so you can get wet tires, intermediate tires, semi-slicks, slicks, road tires, whatever you want. Whatever you want actually in general with this game, you can just do it, which is great. Alright, something I always do, almost always do when I'm not training for online races, is just getting random AI. So at this moment, this is 64 cars on track. Okay, that not a lot of games can do 64 cars on track. Not a lot of graphics cards can do it either, as you can probably see from this footage, because I ran everything at really ridiculously high settings. We're driving a Mercedes SLS, and the reason I wanted to do this is because while physics can be great, they can also be really annoying at times. Say for example, you have a road, and on the right side of the road you can have a friction coefficient of, let's say, 0.95, and on the left side of the road you have 0.8, right, or 0.80. You might think that's not terribly important. When you're racing, and especially in this game, when there's different grip levels on one side of the car compared to the other side of the car, and when the ABS then kicks in, or like me, if you drive it without ABS, it gets even worse. The car gets terribly out of balance under braking, which is perfectly mimicking what it's like in real life. But it's one of the first games other than Assetto Corsa that I really noticed this doing. Other games have it as well, but not as extreme, so maybe they over exaggerated it a little bit at the moment, like a proof of concept, because as I said, it's pre-alpha stuff and they will fine-tune stuff as well, but right here it just caused me to go off. So guys, what else is there? Well, we have street tracks in Project Cars. This is the Monaco GP track actually. It's pretty cool. Something, little point of criticism, Project Cars doesn't use laser scanning at the moment. They are going to use it for DLC tracks, but at the moment the budget just isn't there to do laser scanning, which is terribly expensive. But as a result of that, sadly the bump mapping of tiny little bumps and weird bits of road. Sadly, that's not done very well yet. They might do updates later on to improve stuff like that. The DLC tracks are gonna be laser scanned, but right now they're just working off of reference material. Same for the cars. Everything is based off of incredibly detailed pictures, an awful lot of them, and you cannot see any errors with the naked eye. But yeah, it's just in the back of your head, you know that it's not perfect, even though it feels perfect and it looks perfect, and people taking the wrong way. But it's just not like what AC does, even though I don't want to compare. But it could be better if they laser scanned everything, but then they would probably have needed twice the budget. So yeah, it's cool that they're gonna do it for the DLC though. Alright, now in every one of my videos there's always going to be someone who says, why don't you ever do American stuff? Well, that was probably the worst American accent ever. Yeah. Anyway, why don't I ever do American stuff? Truthfully, I don't really like American tracks, except for this one. I absolutely hated it the first time because I was in a prototype race with this car, multiplayer championship, and I was like, oh damn, what track is that? I've never driven there. It's a shit track. When I then drove on it, I was like, oh god, this is boring. But I came to like it. Same with Monza. I really hated Monza, like, until a year ago, and then I really started liking it for some reason. So this is a really cool track. It's decently made. Of course, it's not full detail yet. The leaves on the road probably are a bit over-exaggerated again, just to show that it's there and to test everything. That's probably why they exaggerate a lot of stuff. But it just feels good. The road really feels good. Again, this Radical, which at this point wasn't licensed yet, it's so brilliant. I love this car. I almost love it as much as the BAC or Buck, whatever you want to call it, Mono. Sadly, that one, I cannot control the oversteer on that thing with no setup work in the world. But it probably is going to get really, really cool later on. Again, AI crashing everywhere. So, we're still driving my favorite car, the Radical SR3, and we're doing it at one of the tracks where I'm probably most at, so you might actually find me at Zolder a lot, to be honest. Yeah, I like the track. I know it like the back of my head, which is why I put it in here, because I can just really compare it to what it's like in real life. And the first thing I noticed is not what this car is like, but what this game is like, but what other games aren't like. A lot of games, and that's me screwing up there, a lot of games don't really have proper 3D-ness. I don't know how you put it, because everything is in 3D, but with a lot of games the track looks very, very flat, and I remember Forza Motorsport for being terrible at that. You know, the first time I played the Nürburgring on there, I was like, since when is the Nürburgring in the Netherlands? Because it really isn't. But this game just does that great, and the cambering of everything it's so brilliant that it ruins other games for me. And it just makes everything, you know, like the physics feel so much better than what they would be like with less awesome angles and everything. So right here we have tires. So as you can see like tire loads, brake loads, tire temperatures, brake temperatures, suspension stuffs, like bump, travel, and height. For some reason height is in centimeters. I don't like centimeters. Everything should be in millimeters, but whatever. You get a really, really nice like G meter thingy. Now this is probably all gonna change because this is like version 10 already, and there's probably gonna be a version 11 for the final game as well. But you get some telemetry information, not Forza Motorsport much like telemetry, and I really miss real-time camber for setting up my stuff. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, just a really cool game. So I'm not going to call what I'm going to do next a conclusion, but I'm going to take some conclusions for you guys on where we are, because that's what the video is about. So for our not a conclusion part of the video, decided to just take the Lancer out again, this time at the ring, to show off like the height differences again. What I'm going to recommend all of you is to go to your online store or your actual physical store if people still buy stuff on CDs, and go there. You're going to pre-order Project Cars because it's the most awesome racing game I have ever played. You can also, I don't know if Steam actually has pre-order stuff, but just buy it on Steam whenever it's buyable. So it's absolutely brilliant. There is so much potential with this game, and what I haven't talked about is community. There is such a brilliant community, such brilliant developers, and I want to say thank you to every single one of those developers, even though I do sometimes have a different view on things than they do, but it's a really, really brilliant game, and everyone should play it. And that's not really a conclusion, is it? Yeah, the AI is quite aggressive on you. That's probably, and that's just at the moment because they'll probably fix it anyway, that's the only negative I can think of. And on this bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you all very much for watching, and see you next episode.
Come on, hurry up, you're losing position.
By the way, I didn't steal this from Top Gear at all. I totally came up with that myself.